I was just praying about, I will let you know. And that is that I don't just come here to make these videos to say, hey, Prince is God, God is Prince. Like, it's not some show, it's not a playground. Um, it's it's just what happened when I was in my life after life situation. It's only one of the images that he showed himself to me in. Um, so, what I wanted to do, you guys, was really to just let people know how even before this situation and the whole death investigation and all this other stuff happened in the world, I was still on my life trail to know the Creator, Hashem. And I still am. um, and when I was in my life after life situation, you guys, one of the things that I said I just wanted the truth, and the truth was all that I wanted. And so now that's really all I get. So that's what I'm trying to share. But in order to do that, like, I guess maybe when a singer writes a song, or, you know, whatever, you have to like expose yourself, I guess. And my main purpose in coming here is to let you guys not only know that the Creator showed himself to me as Prince Rogers Nelson, as well as these other images, but that there is a God, and we call him Hashem. If you're not familiar with the name, if you read a Hebrew Bible, it's the name they use. And it's the name that we use for now until he comes and shows himself in his full glory, and then we can use his other name, in which the Kingdom Hall uses currently. I've discussed that before, and I'm going to leave that alone for now. Anyway, so you guys, I'm trying to share with you, I guess, how I did that, because, when I was in my life after life situation and my soul purpose was exposed to me, one of the things that I had said that I didn't really feel like I had much to offer, or had I offered much to the world outside of my family. And so all these other things were discussed, and now I have to share them with you. It's cool. But really, because I've been through so much, as have most people in the world that I know, so much drama, so much chaos and confusion, so much abuse, so much drugs, light or heavy, experimentation, usage, the whole thing. It's what the world puts in a book and calls dysfunction, yet the whole world functions that way. So, are they teaching us to believe that we're dysfunctional? So anyway, I guess, I know that my intelligence is up there, and that it came from the Creator, continues to come from the Creator, and that a lot of people have it. They just don't know how to use it or where to go with it. And I don't all the time either, but now we have YouTube. So anyway, I guess I wanted to tell you guys, this is why I always wear a hat. I wanted to tell you guys about my controversies in life, so that you can understand how that you too can overcome yours. When I stand accountable again, I can't save you. I can't knight you on the shoulder with my straw, my coffee straw. But I can, as I always say, open doors for people, smile at people, be friendly to their dogs, be friendly to their children, put your cart away at the grocery store. It's the little things that count. But I can also come here and do this because now hopefully I do have some people's attention. And it's more than just a little show over here for YouTube. It's real life, and that's what you're going to get. And I thank you always for watching, putting up with my shenanigans. But I've come to know through my visions and the situation that my name, Elizabeth Pride, the whole thing, everybody's name is meaningful. So first of all, love your name, embrace yourself. I used to go by Liz. It suited me for a while, and then I grew into Elizabeth, and I'm very glad, and I love my name. So I'm Elizabeth, and You guys, I told you, touched on some of this stuff before, but I'm going to tell you some more now. I'm going to try to go slow because it's not something I'm accustomed to, and it's not real comfortable. Hi to whoever's watching. So you guys, I told you before, it's kind of a life story thing. So it's not for everybody, and it's not about Prince Rogers Nelson at this point. It's about coming to know Hashem. So, some people say they can remember being born or this or that or the other, but my first memories had to have been about 3 or 4 living in Alabama. I remember honeysuckle and picking green onions out of the ground, and I don't know if we probably washed them off with a hose, ate them, there was always music and always pot, no matter where we went, smoke. I remember pulling my baby sister in her yellow wagon. I remember trick-or-treating in Alabama. I remember my father here being the manager at Bonanza and Pizza Hut. I remember reaching into the big vat of mozzarella cheese. These are just my early memories, and I'm going to get you somewhere. It's kind of fun for me too, like a little video diary. Anyway, I must have been, because I was like 6 when we moved here to Michigan, but I also remember when we lived down there, my dad had a pool table in the garage, and behind that pool table, or something to this effect, there was a wall. Had to have been like, it was as tall as grown men. So I'm assuming 5 feet, 6 feet at the time, like 6 by 6. And it was a stacked wall of Pabst Blue Ribbon beer cans. And, that was probably just from a week. I don't know. But anyway, there's those kind of memories. And I don't have a lot of terrible memories from that time. We played in the creek. I know we got ticks from time to time. We were unsupervised a lot as very small children. And it was fun. And we were outside all the time. And then I remember the 4 of us siblings piling into the back of a U-Haul. And my mom and dad packed us up in the middle of the night and hightailed us to Michigan. And that was quite an eventful ride. And no God in my life at this point, you guys. I had never heard the word. So, there was no, let me backtrack. See, he just cleared that up for me. They did, in fact, send us to Baptist Bible school when we lived in Alabama. My siblings and I would get on a bus and go to this church, and they were always really, really nice to us. And they sang this little light of mine. And man, I don't know, we were unsupervised, and it was there, and those memories are very vague. But after we got to Michigan, and I lived in the same place from my very first day of kindergarten to my very first day of 5th grade, is what I mean to say. I lived in one certain house, and everyone in my family calls that a haunted house, because that's what it seemed like to us in our childhood memories. Although the freedom, that we had to roam, because we lived on, I don't know how many acres, and we had a kickball field in our backyard, and, the clothesline was, I don't know how far, and we drive the bikes down the hill and play in the woods and climb apple trees and pear trees. And we had a cherry tree, and my mom grew all the vegetables, green peppers and tomatoes and everything behind the shed. And, the pot plants were in there with it too, and all over the house too. And I giggle about that, you guys. And yes, I do come here to talk about the Creator and that at the same time, because it's a plant, and it does a lot of people a lot of good when used with the right frame of mind. So anyway, it was a part of my life, so it's part of my story. And anyway, those years, you guys, those were the ones that were, I don't know, they were probably so scarring that I don't remember a lot of them, because for that 6 years of my life or whatever it was right there. I mean, it was just a constant barrage of music, which is not a problem. It was when we were trying to sleep. It was when we thought that Easter was going to not come the next day, or of course Santa Claus back in the day as a child. And you cry yourself to sleep because the music is so loud and the people are still partying, and you think to your little kid head, there's no way that, that could happen for you. And so then there's the fighting and the screaming and the cussing that comes when people get too drunk. And then there's the father cursing and abusing mother in ways too horrendous to describe, and making her call in her job a couple times a month to quit and humiliate herself, and yet steal behind their backs, I'm sure. One of my worst memories, or best memories, I guess it depends on how you look at it. My mom would always write her schedule on the calendar on the refrigerator. And if it said 7 to 3, well, my heart would just light up, because I knew that meant she would be there when we got home from school. But when the calendar said 3 to 11, it was like the worst. So it was very scary times. You never knew what was going to happen, you guys. It was, we were taught, I'm not complaining, really. I'm just sharing, because oftentimes I've went to Bible study and things in the past, or group places, and when you start to tell people your story, they're like, dang, you should write a book. And here's the video book. So anyway, a condensed version, I'm sure. We were taught, well, we played Yahtzee with our dad. He taught us how to play Risk. I think I learned how to play Risk in like the 2nd grade. I'm not sure. Pretty young. And just all the board games, because it was always a party there. My mom was always this is the cool thing, though. When you tell somebody you grew up like that, they think there must have been no rules or regimen, or I don't know what they think. But on the flip side of that, we were outside all the time doing our thing. We had a lot of freedom. And I thought we got along pretty well. But anyway, shoot. My brain went away. Anyway, you guys, it was pretty awful. I mean, what I mean to say about that is there was good and bad stuff about that, but what there wasn't any of is God in the home. It was, I didn't know the word. I told you guys this before. I did know the word only because my dad would write it on his Yahtzee card. He would just write it on his Yahtzee card every time, and then he would walk around the house touching kids on the head and saying it was the big man in the sky with the hand. So those were the only references in my life that we had to God, for the most part. So I'm going to condense this a little bit. I just mean to say that the things that I heard, saw, you guys, 4th of July was, I can't even barely bring myself to talk about it. Like he abused my sister so bad, like she was a full-grown man. And these things, they send you inside yourself, because there's nobody else to turn to for help. And there's nowhere to go. So you look inside, and that's what I did. Even as a child, I just didn't realize it then. And this voice would tell me that things were going to be okay. It just would. And it would soothe me to sleep, and it would keep me warm, like one of those weighted blankets. And, it's the same voice. I would go out and read trees, or read trees too. I would go up in the trees and read books and sing, and that same connection, the same voice would connect me to other things in the world other than what was going on in the house. And I also found that connection at school, very much so. And I've been having a lot of recollections about that lately. How I didn't realize I did a lot of things scholastically as a child, and I have some kind of vague memory in my life after life about, I was kind of given some kind of like free reign at school, or always being tested, or they would always pull me out for these reading tests to see how many words I could read a minute, and it'd be real crazy. And they would just let me go hang out with the librarian and learn the Dewey Decimal System. And just, I didn't realize those things until recently. And I'm not saying I'm the smartest person in the land. That's not what I'm saying, because plenty of people have plenty of things that I can learn from them, and that is not what I'm saying. I'm just telling my story. Um, anyway, I didn't realize how much I ran to that, to the inner, the books and the education and the anything that wasn't on the outside. And when you do that, it keeps the imagination alive, I would imagine. And because I would read, Are You There, God Is Me, Margaret, amongst other things. I mean, just everything, everything. And it would teach me that there was a different world out there and that I could achieve more and I could be better regardless of what was going on around me. So even though the things that I wanted to see weren't happening in my own life, I knew that if I kept trying, that someday I could make them happen in my own life. So anyway, that was a cool part of my life, you guys, because I say it was cool because I stayed at one school from kindergarten to the very first day of fifth grade. And that was the longest that I ever stayed anywhere ever in my life. And I went to a great school and got to know the principal. And, it was like a home for me. It just was. I felt safe there. But then what I mean to say is the first day of fifth grade, I went and started a new school. I'm going to condense this a little bit, you guys, because what I wanted to tell you is how much we moved, how there was no foundation. There was nowhere to, there's army kids, military kids, army brats, they call them, but there's also parents of, or children of alcoholics. And I moved fifth grade, sixth grade, 3 times in the seventh grade. Okay. So I went to 3 different schools in the 7th grade, and one of those was, that's when we moved from Michigan to Florida. So one of those was in Florida, and then we were in Florida, and I went to 3 different schools in the 8th grade, 2 in Florida, and then came back to Michigan and went to 1 in Michigan. So during those puberty times, and when my mom and dad, split up and everything, that's when Pied Piper's life changed. Still no God, though. Definitely not. Not that I could see or hear. The ways that I found him, for instance, when I was 13 and my little sister told me that my father had attempted to molest her, and I'm sure she only told me part of the story. I told my mom, and she got the courage to leave, etc. Sorry, you guys. I don't have these stories planned, so the moments go out of my head. Oh, the way I found the creator in that is that the courage that first of all, that my sister shared it with me and I shared it with my mom, and that I felt whatever the situation was, I saw courage in my mom that she finally had had enough and was ready to leave. And at 13, I was ready to leave too. So anyway, that was that. So it seemed, there was 13 years of my life lived with what we called the man. We called him the devil. I told you guys before, it's not that he was an uneducated man. He was a former helicopter pilot in the Air Force, very educated, very handsome, played the drums. I believe he played at the Grand Ole Opry from what I hear through the grapevine, not like publicly or something like that, but I always played bongos and, could be fun. Those are the best things I can say about it. And anyway, so 3 schools, 7th grade, 3 schools, 8th grade, you guys. I started high school, got pregnant promptly in the 9th grade, or excuse me, between 9th and 10th grade, somewhere in there. Because of course, when you're cut loose at 13, you're cut loose everywhere. You know what I'm saying? So, when I got pregnant, I didn't want to be a burden to my family. So I took a job with a lady that was pregnant. She actually had a military husband, and she had twins, a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old, and a set of twins, 8-month-old twins. And I went to go live with her because she advertised at my school for pregnant girls, and I didn't want to be a burden to my mom, so I went to stay with her. But then she started doing weird things, and And at the time I was 15, 16, and the kids wore cloth diapers and my back was hurting and I was pregnant and I wasn't down with this. I told my mom to come back and get me. And she did. And then I went to living on my own, you guys, on my very own. I got my own house when I was 16, barely. No, I was 15, so just about 16, and I was pregnant. And my mom got a house, but she went to living with her boyfriend, and so the house was left to me. Now, this house, we call it the Hughes Road house. That's where all the housequake parties were, on the boombox that was like 12 by 5 or whatever they were back then, with the one tape. That's where we had all those house parties, best believe it. But anyway, so I lived there when I was 16, you guys. No God, no nothing. Cockroaches, the house got condemned eventually. And then I was blessed to get a Section 8 back in the day and get pregnant with my second daughter and live with us some apartments. Still no God, if you're wondering, that I knew of. I was just making all these crazy decisions and willy-nillying around like, somebody let me loose, So I lived in those apartments for a while, you guys, and becoming a mother of 2 young daughters, like that's when during all the chaos and confusion that I had in my life that I was going to say earlier, the one thing that my parents stayed consistent on is that we got up at the same time every day, brushed our teeth, had breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the same time, and bedtime was 9:00, and it just was that way. And so I appreciated that, obviously, because that was something positive I wanted to say, because I carried it through with my own children. But anyway, about 1990, you guys, 91, I got a nice house and whatever, and I had my third daughter, and was in a relationship. If you're wondering, I might have told you before, but I was with the same young man for 5 years straight out of high school, and then the other young man for another 5 years after that. So it's a long story, and I'm not telling all that. But anyway, that's when 1991, you guys, boy. After I had my third daughter, I told you before, it's no big deal. I needed a source of income, and I had 3 kids, and I went to, dancing, stripping. I won't even call it exotic dancing, is what it is. It was a stripper. And it's a pretty big deal. It's nothing that I condemn now, because as I stood in my life after life, I was explained that there was a reason for it. But my point is this. It's where my life changed a great deal, and I came to know God, because, well, in 91, a friend of mine was working at a strip bar, and she started doing it, and I was seeing the money, and of course I was like, man, I can do that too. And so I did. And then, of course, I couldn't do it without, you see how nervous I am. So then I started drinking a lot to get through the job, and only at work. I didn't drink when I hung out at home or anything like that. It was a on-the-job hazard. We partied and went to the bar, but I'm not there yet. I'm just saying, I drank a lot to get through the work, is what I mean to say. When I was doing that, and my sister had committed suicide in July 7th of 1992, which is interesting if you're following the gematria, because it's 6/7. Interesting. 6/7 of 92. Sometimes it's hard to remember, you guys. It's been a long time. And then, of course, my mother passed of inoperable lung cancer in October 14th of 93. And so, yes, it was 93, that since the headstone has been there since 93. So I was still doing the job, but the grief that, and it was only part-time and on the weekends, it wasn't like a full-time thing. It was just, the grief that I carried in my heart from losing them. I would be in the bar and I could hear so loudly this voice in my head that just literally was saying, "What are you doing here? Put your clothes back on. Leave this place." It was unmistakable. Oftentimes, it was only after they died that I heard that voice. I didn't really hear it before that because I was probably too drunk. And that's how I got 2 drunk drivings in 2 years. But I would be in the middle of working and it was just the voice demanded that I leave. And so then when I go sit in my car in the parking lot and cry and cry and cry and ask, if there was a God, where are you? Why am I still here? Why is my family falling all around me like a bunch of little green plastic soldiers? I mean, what did we do wrong? My mom was such a beautiful, giving and kind woman. And, spring, of course, spring ding. So when souls like that leave the world, you're obviously going to be like, hey, what's up, God? You just took 2 people that weren't doing anything wrong. And like, then you're telling me to get out of the bar and I don't really know you, but I want to know you. And so then when I'm sitting in jail for 15 days for my second drunk driving in 2 years, and if you missed it before, yeah, I'm familiar with that album and him dismissing the name at that point. Thank you. It blows my mind too, because I don't know of all the coinky dinks yet. It hasn't all come to light yet. Anyway, I told you guys before, I think, that first of all, let me back up. I was doing my 15 days in jail. And that's when the Bible ladies came in and, started teaching the New Testament and all the things that they teach and all the places that they teach them. And I dug it and I wanted some of it and I could feel what they were teaching. And for the very first time in my life, I was like, oh, if there's some other kind of power out there, and I know there is because I could already hear it and feel it talking to me. I just didn't know what to call him or how to reach it or whatever. But these ladies came in and told me to read this Bible in the New Testament. And of course, they tell you to start in John 3:16 and say the words, the magic words, Lucky Charms, magic tricks are for kids words. So I did that and pretty much read a great deal of the Bible in the 15 days that I was there. I don't know if it was verbatim. I'm not trying to lay any whatever, but I got to know it pretty well, especially the New Testament, because it was the same thing over and over again, just in different words. And so what I mean to say is since 94, when I was in jail for those 2 weeks, that's where I really, with the deaths of my mom and my sister, and I was like, I have to connect to this force. I have 3 kids to raise. He doesn't want me in the bars. It's not like I couldn't get any other job. It was just, easy money. And it allowed me to do things for my kids and whatever. So, I didn't, I can say I didn't get myself into too many situations that way. I don't know if it matters, but I do want to give credit to Hashem for bringing me out of that, because I can't even imagine. But it's all a part of our story. And that's what I came here to tell you guys, is that, when I got stopped drunk driving, you guys, the first time I got stopped, I blew a .22. And the second time I got stopped, I blew a .25. I'm, about 5'5", and at that point, probably about 130 pounds, give or take. So that was pretty doggone high. And I used to drive home from Detroit like that all the time to Lansing. And the Creator himself told me that he made sure I got home safe because I blacked out a lot of times. So again, when the people came to the jail and said, hey, here's this Jesus, get to know him, I was like, gimme, just gimme. So I did my thing and I got a Bible and I went home and I need a hat. And maybe the roomies would bring me one. And so anyway, and then I was got my girls involved in a corner church. Sorry, I get excited. They just got home. I got my own 3 girls. I put them on the bus. We went and got baptized, water baptized as Christians. And, it is what it is. Get on that, the Jesus boat, and you do all the things. And I started going to church, and I started looking at them with my sister. And I was like, man, why are these churches all so big? Like, what is the deal? Where's all this money coming from? Why are these people having donuts in the lobby? Why is there a cafeteria over there? What are they doing here? Why is this like a shopping mall? And then I went like a good little girl and I sat down in the pew. And then you got Mr. Joe Schmo pastor up there trying to be, I don't know what kind of comedian. And all they want to sell is, you deserve to have this car, and you deserve to have this, and you're this and you're that. But to get it, you got to say these magic words, and you got to believe that this man that gave his life for you went away, but when someday, somewhere over the rainbow, he's going to come back and save us. And I was like, okay, I was following along, going to church, doing the thing, and reading and discussing. And I was like, wait a minute, who are these Hebrew people? Wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. Let me go back and find the Hebrew version, because if it started there, it was there for a reason. It's just, there's a reason for everything. So then, of course, I visited the Catholic churches. I visited the so-called Kingdom Hall. I did my research, you guys, from that time to this time. And when I say I did my research, I was there in person. I read the Watchtower magazines. I went in person with the lady. I watched them stick the microphone in their faces. I went to my sister had a Catholic wedding. I almost passed out being there. These things, when I came in touch with them, that I knew that what they were selling of God was a facade. It was a joke to me. I was like, wait a minute. They want us to believe that we're going to find God here? And then, your sister's having Bible study at her house, and that these people have this drama and that drama. And I'm not trying to, but then they go off and they pretend to be somebody else. But I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it's because they're all so hurt and broken that they're pretending that and that's okay, because I pretended for a while too, but I pretended until I felt something, until, I can't really say I pretended. What I mean to say is, when I would go to church and I thought at first that I would feel something, or like I told you before, when I went to the Pentecostal church or all black church or whatever it was with my whole white family, that we look white anyway. And, because I thought, I felt something there. I didn't care where it was. I was seeking the power. And so when I found out that it didn't exist in these places, I went into my backyard, you guys. I started reading the Hebrew in 2013 in my first purple time, when all the things happened. I know I made quite the jump there, but this is about finding Hashem. In 2013, along the way, I didn't like live this big old fake life, you guys. I was not walking around like, I walk around clutching my Bible and going around selling, Jesus to everybody like they would have you do, or anything like that. What I wanted and what I sought was a leader for my family, because I never had one in my dad. I never had one in anybody. And the power that I was looking for was for a leader that I would know what was right for my life. And then, of course, when my mom and my sister died, and that's shocking. And guess what, you guys? I was 19 when my sister was 19 when she died, which is the whole 19 with the numbers. And then, what was I going to say? I was 21. That's what I meant to say. 21, and then shortly after 22. So the numbers go with everything else. Anyway, more on that later. The power, you guys, I needed a leader. Gosh, I needed something, because everything that I had done up until that time was based on what I didn't know if it was me talking to me or God talking to me. But then when I got in jail and, and I was like, okay, I could feel this power. Then I knew it was something outside of myself from what I had previously been in touch with. So then I sought it, like I ran after it, and I sought it real hard because I knew that I could get in more touch with it. And then it made all the brick and mortars and, even more illusionary. And I separated myself from them. And a lot of people asked me through the years, well, if you're that kind of woman, why don't you go to church? And, the Bible says you need to participate and have coffee and donuts and you just give all your money. And no, thank you. So I went outside, and I know I make funny faces. I don't care. Because those things, they creeped me out. And I always relied on it. Listen, you guys, when you grow up in an abusive, dysfunctional household, one thing you learn to do is you learn how to read faces. You learn how to read body language. You learn how to anticipate people's behavior, how to get out of the way before something bad happens. And then also you learn how to, or some children do, I imagine I did, you learn at least, how to manipulate the best you can, or to work or circumvent that dysfunctional behavior of the parent or the uncles and aunts and family members that are partying and playing risk and cribbage. And, you anticipate, and so you're an expert body language reader, and so people want to run around calling people empaths these days, but it's because there's a lot of broken people out there that grew up that way, that don't quite understand why they can read other people's body language, but it's because they were trying to duck. So anyway, after you find the power, I ran after it full force. 2013, first purple time, you guys, which is another. Well, I know I skipped right by 2010, which is when I passed away. I'm skimming quite a bit. I told myself I wasn't going to do that, so let me back up because it takes away from a great deal of the journey to where we are now. It's just difficult. Man, after my mom died, you guys, like I said, I put my girls in the church. I got married in 95. I went from working at an Amoco gas station to a photography job at Kmart Portrait Studio. I did so well at that job at Kmart Portrait Studio in sales that they sent me a letter after, 6 months or something, asking for people to go be managers in the PetSmart Portrait Studios in California, Laguna Niguel, it was in Silicon Valley. No, it was in Irvine Valley. That's where I worked. We lived in Aliso Viejo, but I worked in Irvine Valley PetSmarts. They moved me out there. That was, a pretty shining moment. And I knew that, obviously I'd been taken out of the strip clubs, and I would still do it from time to time to make extra money, but not. And every time I did, I just felt like vomiting and leaving. But, so I went in, did really good with the sales, and they paid for the whole move out there. And it was a really awesome year of life. Let me see. Some bad things happened out there in California, and I ended up coming right back to Michigan in 97, but not before I got a job at. Well, when I was out in California, actually, I went from the PetSmart Portrait Studio, because it was weird, you guys. It was weird taking pictures of pets, really, really rich people and their pets, and it was a little strange, and it wasn't doing it for me, and I had to clean up poop occasionally, and it just wasn't for me, and I had to break a little contract that I had with them, unfortunately, because it wasn't for me. So then I went to working at Sears Portrait Studio, as well as what we call, Lifetime, which is JCPenney Portrait Studio. The cool thing about that is, another thing is, like I said, I did a good job with when I was given opportunities, man, I would excel. It's just that I haven't been given very many opportunities. So, being moved out to California like that is a pretty big deal. And so then when I went to get my job at JCPenney Portrait Studio out there in Laguna, it was what they call a level 6 portrait studio, and it had 3 different camera rooms. And I was 23 years old. I really kind of didn't know what I was doing, but I made it work. I mean, I knew enough. I knew the photography aspect and whatever, the whole other part I got to know. And so I ran a level 6 studio out there, which was pretty unheard of. And then I brought that skill back to Michigan and worked at Olin Mills and JCPenney and everywhere, all the portrait studios. And then a friend noticed my skill and told me, hey, come over here and work in mortgage sales. So in 98, I did that. And things were very lucrative back in the day. During this time, I maintained my connection to the Creator. I always prayed. I've shared with you guys before a lot of my journal entries where I would always pray for the right thing for my family because, again, the one thing that was always missing was a male leader, a love of my life. It was missing. And the connection that I got when I would pray and write and feel and hear, it was like a drug. And so I had to go back to it. I really didn't get a choice. I mean, I did in the way that I made stupid mistakes and plenty along the way. And when you make those mistakes, all he's waiting for you to do is come back and say, oops, I fell. Please help me not do that again. Because that's what I would do. Because every time I would do something asinine, I would say, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Please help me not to do that again. I would write about it in my journal because I wanted it. I wanted it. Like, I'm trying to stop saying that. My Rabbi, Rav Jor, who's awesome, he's always talking about how other religions, they're forced and coerced and made scared to love God. And so that is a wild thing for me to fathom. It's because I can't even get the words out. I can't even imagine somebody coming to me in life. And granted, I didn't grow up that way, but even so, knowing my own character, no, you're going to love God. You're going to do this. And if you don't, you break people's spirits that way. You snap them in two. You can't do that to people. You just can't. But guess what? That's what's done to our world because they want you to snap. They want you to be confused. Okay. But anyway, so I just, you guys, I needed it. And I told you before I even knew that, like I said, I sought it out like a drug. And that's what I have come to find out since through these revelations and things is that drugs were, of course, created to be a synthetic God. But that's a whole nother story, and we're still not there yet. My sister said it with her own words when she had shoulder surgery. That was her first real run-in with God from, our growing up, the way we grew up and everything. When she had the shoulder surgery and she felt the drug effect, she was like, oh, I got to have that again. That is what I feel for any and every addict or any drug user, recreational or whatever. If you've ever been out there, and that feeling that you get when you use drugs is the exact same feeling that you can get from the Creator. That's who he is. That's what he is. It's like they created it synthetically. That's what CERN is for. That's what the occult uses. That's why the white bread KKK walk around so arrogant and pompous, because they think that they got genie in a bottle. You know what I'm saying? It's what they sell over at the Eckankar Center. And it's no longer. Anyway, so having come back to Michigan from California, you guys, man, I went really wild somewhere. I'm not sure where. I went off on a tangent of partying and drinking and promiscuity. That was a hard one to get out because I don't like being so honest. But I figure these videos are going to last a lifetime, and I don't want anything coming back to bite me. But all the while, I still read my Bible, and all the things that I did, all the partying, listen, job and my family came first. My job, all the drinking was done undercover. Man, my kids were in bed, like I told you before, that soldier schedule at 9 o'clock every night. You know what I'm saying? Any time I did company, it was when they were gone. I was always very careful to live the best way that I knew how, especially based on how I came up. And I knew that that's another way that I knew the Creator was hand walking me, because I knew that even though the things that I had achieved in my life might not have seemed big to some people, that they were big to me, and what a difference they were from where I came from. And so I was like, that's again, let me know that the power was out there to be had, and why I clung to it so viciously. And and I told you guys before, during that time, I tried to go to college 3 different times. I dropped out 3 times. Waitressed at night, went to school in the morning, worked the mortgage job. I pretty much tried to do it all, and still I partied a lot. I say that now because I'm proud of it, but because it's another part of my life. Because to let people know that they can also move away from that. Uh, because I don't think it happens as much as it used to. I don't know. I mean, I'm way older now, but it's just not the thing. Bars aren't the thing that they used to be. In my day, it was bars. We danced. We went not to drink, but to dance. And to dance and have fun, you want to have some beers, especially when they're quarter and they come in a plastic cup. And, you get somebody who's 21 and you take their stamp and you rub it on your hand, or, get ashes out of the ashtray and make the stamp on your hand. You're good to go, man. So we had a lot of fun, but I always felt like there was a reason that I was still alive, and that, the things that I had seen and made it through, and my mom and my sister, and just the other things that happened, there was a reason that I experienced even the small successes. And then when I turned my back and would go a little bit in the other direction, I saw that I was the one doing it. It wasn't, oh, Hashem left me, or, it was, wait, you're sidestepping, you're acting like this, you're doing that, get back on track. And so there was always the still small voice, always guiding me, even though I wasn't in church, or I wasn't, so, so, man, he was just always there, you guys, always teaching and guiding and saying, look this way. And when I would make terrible relationships mistakes, and he was always lovingly there telling me things. And then in the spring of 2020, as I'm always telling you guys, there was one of my favorite games in grade school was called 7-Up. And everybody would put their head down on their desk, and you would put your thumb up. And then the person would walk around and put your thumb down, or up, vice versa. I'm not sure. And anyway, sorry, in 2020, I feel like I put my head down on my desk, and then when I lifted it back up, I was somewhere else, because that's when I started this infiltration and this indoctrination of all of this work, and all of the Hebrew, and all of the investigation, and all the stuff that I'm always trying to come here and share with you guys. Because how do I say? In my life after life, you guys, I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again until even I remember. When I walked and talked with the one, he was in the image of Prince. We were right there with each other. He was calling up my holy books of life. He was explaining to me that when I was a stripper, that it was so that I could be comfortable with myself and come here to do this and do some of the other things that have happened throughout this wild ride. Everybody who is, I can't speak for everybody. I can only speak for myself. I'm not going to say that. What I mean to say is that everybody has a soul, and that everybody is capable of hearing their soul purpose by listening to him. But even through all these things, you guys, this is what I came here to say, is people come here and they're either maybe looking for investigation information or whatever. And I'm saying, oh, Prince Rogers Nelson, he was the creator. He's God. He's sustaining. He did this. He did that. And then they think you're crazy. But that's why I came to let you know how I would hear the creator's voice prior to that. And people who know me will tell you the same thing, that I never strayed from my point of view, from my non-political standpoint, from my non-voting, from my nobody's going to tell me what to do ever. How do I deal with evil, you guys? In the past, I dealt with it a myriad of unhealthy ways. But when I answered that question in my life after life, what I told him was that it's not like I run around trying to be, people mistake what's positive and what's happy. Anything I feel, typically, if it needs to be felt in that moment in time, I'll feel it. I'll experience it. I'll cry. I'll laugh. I'll say something stupid. I'll skip out of the store. I don't care. I'm going to do what my soul tells me to do. I was skipping out of Ulta the other day, and the lady just giggled, and I said, hey, new makeup makes me happy. And she's like, I know the feeling. And I could see all over her face that she wanted to skip too. My sister and her daughter, rest in peace, Daniela, and other cousins, and we would, when the don't walk sign changes on the street, we would all crazy walk. Everybody would say crazy walk, and then everybody would do a really crazy walk across the street so that the people sitting there waiting would have something to delight their day. You know what I mean? Some people might think it's silly and stupid, but anything to have fun, to let your soul be who it's supposed to be, and to listen to your inner voice, you know? And not that kind of peer pressure inner voice, because that's not inner hearing, that's somebody else telling you what to do. Religion, the Pope, we're going to do a special on that, but I'm going to try to stay away from it for now. They don't want your soul to be free, dude. They just don't. They want to own it, lock, stock, and barrel, as they say. And that went off track. But anyway, you guys, in the spring of 2020, when I started hearing all this stuff, and he told me that, oh, I know what I want to show you real quick too. Super important. It's kind of, I wanted to make and talk about this on its own, but this video is kind of long. I tried to expose to you guys in all these different ways, the investigation, this way, that way. I won't stop. I can't stop. This feeling I got, can't stop. Anyway, when you sit down to make the letter A, as I did here, and it becomes all of this, and as I've tried to teach you guys how they convert the Hebrew, this was an incomplete version. But what I want to show you is what I was trying to show you on the white paper the other day, you guys, and that is the Aleph, the way that we use it as an English letter A. It equals the number 1 numerically and so forth. And I showed you guys this the other day, and I'm not going to get into it right now. But what I do want to show you is right here in the middle. You see where the letter, hold on, let me turn this around for a minute. We talked about the KKK being the number, the letter K is equivalent to the number 11. So KKK is equal to 33, which is 33rd degree gematria. So also in the letter K, so in the English, where you have the letter K in the middle, it's equivalent to number 11. But also in the Hebrew, the Hebrew kaf starts with the K as well, okay? And it's equal to the number 20, okay? So what I want to show you guys is the number 10, Yud, starts with a Y. This is where they got Y2K, because even though you see the 0 there, that's a 2. They got Y2K, okay? That's 3121. It's the KKK. It's the NWO. It's the real legions. And there's a lot more to show you guys. As you can see, the equations down there at the bottom. And I'm going to get into these in another video. But it's, instead of pi being Pi, it's PIE, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4. It also spells the name Pride itself, as well as Prince. It's just the way the spelling works. But you can see what happens when you skip the 2 or sus the 2, as in Purple Rain, suspended 2 chord. If you write 1, 2, 3, 4, and you skip the 2, as in the red X, and you put the 2 up above, then what does that look like? 666, right? If you take the 1 and make it the letter A, and then you make it a small letter A, you have 666, because that's the way that the gematria breaks down. And I did it again and again. And as I said, I'll explain this in another video because it's pretty intense and not the way I meant to end this one. So, but I guess probably the reason I did is to let you know that even though you guys may not be able to thoroughly understand yet, what I'm saying is that even I don't thoroughly understand it, because communication between myself and the creator it's not like, you just sitting down, pointing things out, in that physical sense. But in my mind, that same place where I would go when I read my books when I was a kid, that same place where the music took me, the same place where when I would read the book of Daniel in 2013, when I was calculating the lineage it's like a place of ecstasy. It's like a high for me that can't be achieved any other place. So when I do these things, they're from him. My eczema, my hands look so old. I wash them 80 times a day and they're really dry. But anyway, that's why I am able to come here and say, love is God, God is love, and he showed himself to us, our generation, 1776 to 1777, himself in the image of what we knew as Prince Rogers Nelson. And when I died in 2010, he told me that the other breakdown portion was going to happen, that they were putting in a replacement, that they were going to do this, that, and the other, which I'm not getting into right now because I can't remember it thoroughly, and it's a different video. But the main thing is, he had told me that based on the generational biblical foundations and ancestors and things, that we, 1776, Declaration of Independence, generation, X, that we are 246 years away from that, got to make a change, you guys, because it's time to be accountable for what's in your heart. And there's a lot of people out there that don't want to be, aren't ready to be, but it's only because they're scared to be, because they've been taught that God is scary. And you have to be accountable. There's nothing wrong with saying you're sorry, especially when you really are. But if you can't find it in your heart to say you're sorry because you're not, well, I don't know what to tell you, but if you are and you're just too embarrassed or too shy, then know this, you guys, that all the things that you don't talk about, all the things that you hide because you think that he doesn't want to hear about, are the things that are weighing him down. As soon as you release yourself from that, you release him of that, because he carries your burdens. Do you want him carrying more than he has to? No. You set your neighbor free. You set yourself free. You have your best therapy session ever by doing your hit body do, which is talking to your creator like your best friend. Okay? You'll get it someday. You'll get it. I have faith in that. I have faith in that. I love you guys. I'll be back. Thank you for watching. For realsies.